Your F-150 EcoBoost has factory settings quietly cooking your wastegate, and you would never know until the check engine light comes on and the repair bill hits $1,800. Most owners think their truck is running perfectly, while these settings slowly destroy one of the most critical parts of the turbo system. I have been a Ford technician for over 16 years, and I see melted wastegates every single week. Today, I am showing you exactly what is killing them and how to stop it. Let me explain what a wastegate actually does, because understanding this is the key to protecting it. On your EcoBoost engine, whether it is the 2.7 or the 3.5, the turbochargers compress incoming air to create boost pressure. But you cannot let boost build forever, or you would blow the engine apart. The wastegate is the safety valve that bleeds off excess exhaust pressure to control how much boost the turbo makes. On most modern F-150 EcoBoost trucks, these are electronic wastegates controlled by actuators that respond to commands from the engine computer. They are constantly opening and closing, sometimes hundreds of times during a single drive. And here's the thing nobody tells you: the way you operate your truck, combined with several factory default settings, determines whether that wastegate lasts 200,000 miles or melts down at 60,000. The exhaust gases passing through that area reach temperatures over 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit. When the wastegate and its actuator are forced to work harder than they should, the heat builds up, the actuator linkage warps, the bushings wear out, and eventually the whole assembly fails. Let me walk you through what is causing it. The first culprit is something almost every owner does without thinking: shutting the engine off immediately after hard driving or towing. You pull into your driveway after climbing a grade with a trailer, or you get off the highway after a spirited run and you just turn the key off. That single habit is one of the worst things you can do to your turbo system and your wastegate. Here is why. When you are under boost, those turbos are spinning at speeds up to 150,000 revolutions per minute, and the turbine housing is glowing hot. The wastegate assembly sits right in that superheated exhaust stream. When you shut the engine off immediately, the oil that lubricates and cools the turbo bearings stops circulating instantly, but the heat does not disappear. It soaks into the surrounding components in a process called heat soak. The residual heat radiates into the wastegate actuator, the linkage, and the surrounding sensors. That trapped oil in the turbo bearing cooks and turns into hard carbon deposits, a process called coking. Those carbon particles then circulate and gum up the moving parts of the wastegate mechanism. Over time, the actuator cannot move freely anymore. It binds, it sticks, and the electronic system tries to force it, which warps the linkage and burns out the actuator motor. The fix costs nothing and takes 60 seconds. After any hard driving or towing, let your truck idle for 1 to 2 minutes before shutting it off. This keeps oil circulating through the turbos and lets the temperature come down gradually. The airflow at idle pulls heat away from the wastegate area. If you tow regularly, this single habit will add years to your turbo system. Ford mentions cooldown in the owner's manual for severe duty, but they bury it where nobody reads it, and dealerships never explain it during delivery. The second setting that's punishing your wastegate is the auto start-stop system, and the connection here surprises most people. You know the feature. You stop at a red light and the engine shuts off, then fires back up when you lift off the brake. Ford built this to meet EPA certification for fuel economy, not to help you. But here is what it does to your turbo system specifically. Every time the engine shuts down and restarts, you get that momentary drop in oil pressure before the pump builds it back up. The turbo bearings and the wastegate actuator depend on consistent oil flow and stable operating conditions. The constant thermal cycling, hot then cooling then hot again, stresses the wastegate components far more than steady operation would. The actuator and its electronic controls go through repeated heating and cooling cycles that the metal was not designed to endure dozens of times per drive. The expansion and contraction wears the bushings and the linkage joints. I have pulled wastegate actuators off trucks with heavy start-stop use that showed where you would normally expect at twice the mileage. To disable it, press the auto start-stop button on your dash every time you start the truck. The problem is Ford will not let you disable it permanently through factory settings because it is tied to EPA certification. The system defaults back on with every restart. Aftermarket modules that plug into your harness will disable it automatically every time you start. They run around $100 to $150. A lot of EcoBoost owners consider this essential, and given that a wastegate actuator replacement runs $400 to $700 in parts alone before labor, the math makes sense fast. The third issue is one most owners cause completely by accident: lugging the engine in the wrong drive mode. Your F-150 has multiple drive modes, and if you're leaving it in eco mode while towing or climbing grades, you're setting up the exact conditions that destroy wastegates. Eco mode is programmed to keep engine speed low and limit boost to save fuel. The transmission shifts up early and holds tall gears. That's fine cruising empty on a flat highway, but put a trailer behind you in ESO mode and the engine starts lugging, operating at low engine speed under heavy load. When the engine lugs, the computer demands more boost to compensate for the lack of power, which means the wastegate is constantly cycling, slamming closed to build boost, then dumping pressure over and over under extreme heat. This high-frequency cycling under maximum thermal load is brutal on the actuator and the wastegate flapper. The constant opening and closing under that kind of exhaust temperature accelerates wear dramatically. Meanwhile, the low engine speed, high load condition pushes exhaust gas temperatures even higher, cooking the wastegate components further. The solution is to use the correct mode. When you're towing anything over 3,000 pounds or hauling heavy, engage tow haul mode. It downshifts aggressively, keeps the engine in its power band, and lets the turbos and wastegate operate in a far more stable, controlled range. The boost delivery becomes smooth and predictable instead of frantic. Never tow in eco mode. Use normal mode for everyday driving and tow haul mode anytime the truck is working. This one change reduces wastegate stress more than almost anything else you can do. If you're finding this valuable, take a second right now to hit that like button and subscribe, because the next two settings are the ones causing the most expensive wastegate failures I see in the shop, and most owners have no idea they're even doing anything wrong. The fourth problem is aggressive cold start driving, and this one's about timing. When you fire up your EcoBoost on a cold morning and immediately get on the throttle, pulling into traffic and demanding boost, you're forcing the wastegate to work hard before the oil has reached operating temperature in full flow. Cold oil is thick. It does not circulate through the turbo bearings and lubricate the actuator components as effectively as warm oil does. The clearances inside the turbo and the wastegate mechanism are designed around oil at proper operating temperature and viscosity. When you demand full boost with cold, thick oil, the wastegate actuator is moving against more resistance. The bearings are not fully protected, and the rapid temperature spike from cold metal to extreme exhaust heat creates thermal shock. That thermal shock is hard on the wastegate flapper and the turbine housing where it seats. Over thousands of cold starts followed by immediate hard driving, the wastegate seat can deform and the actuator wears prematurely. The fix is simple and free. After a cold start, drive gently for the first 3 to 5 minutes. Keep the RPMs moderate and stay out of heavy boost until the engine has reached operating temperature and the oil is flowing properly. You do not need to sit and idle to warm it up, which actually causes its own problems with carbon buildup. Just drive easy until the temperature gauge comes up. This lets the oil warm and circulate fully before you ask the turbos and wastegate to do their hardest work. It costs you nothing but a few minutes of patience, and it dramatically extends the life of the entire turbo system. The fifth and final setting is the most overlooked, and it's about what's feeding your wastegate's electronic controls. A neglected battery and electrical system combined with extended high boost driving without proper maintenance awareness. The electronic wastegate actuators on your EcoBoost are precision devices controlled by the engine computer through electrical signals. They depend on stable voltage to position accurately. When your battery is weak or your electrical system has voltage irregularities, the actuator can receive inconsistent signals, causing it to hunt and overcorrect, which means more movement, more heat, and more wear. This gets worse on trucks with the auto start-stop system because that feature is hard on batteries to begin with, and a degraded battery feeds the problem. But the deeper issue here is owners running their EcoBoost hard, constant high boost, frequent wide open throttle, without understanding that the wastegate is a wear item that needs the supporting systems in good health. The carbon buildup from direct injection on EcoBoost engines, combined with a PCV system that routes oil vapor into the intake, gradually fouls the components around the turbo system. When carbon and oil residue accumulate, the wastegate actuator and linkage can stick. The way to protect yourself is maintenance you control. Keep your battery healthy and have it tested if it's over 3 years old, especially on start-stop equipped trucks. Stay on top of your oil changes using the correct Ford spec synthetic, because clean oil keeps the turbo bearings cool and prevents the coking that gums up the wastegate. If your truck has 80,000 miles or more of hard EcoBoost driving, have a shop inspect the wastegate actuator for proper movement and check for play or sticking. Catching a sticking actuator early, when it's a cleaning or adjustment, is the difference between a small bill and a full turbo assembly replacement that can run well over $2,000 per side on the 3.5. Here's what I want you to take away from all of this. Your wastegate isn't failing because Ford built a bad truck. The EcoBoost is a genuinely impressive engine. It's failing because the factory settings and the habits nobody warned you about are quietly working against it. Let your truck cool down for a minute or two after hard driving instead of shutting it off hot. Kill the auto start-stop permanently if you can. Use tow haul mode when you're working the truck and never tow an Eco. Drive gently for the first few minutes after a cold start, and keep your battery and oil in top shape so the electronic wastegate gets the stable power and clean lubrication it needs. None of these cost real money. They cost a little awareness and a few changed habits. Do them, and your wastegate, your turbos, and your wallet will all last a lot longer. If this helped you understand your truck better, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you do not miss the next one. Drop a comment and tell me which of these settings you've been guilty of, because I guarantee you're not alone. And share this with any F-150 EcoBoost owner you know, because most of them are melting their wastegate right now and have no idea. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.